Long Island.
Long Island is an island in the U.S. state of New York. Stretching northeastwards from New York Harbor into the Atlantic Ocean, Long Island contains 4 counties, 2 of which are boroughs of New York City, and 2 of which are mainly suburban. In popular usage, Long Island often refers only to Nassau and Suffolk counties in order to differentiate them from New York City, although all 4 counties are situated on the island and are part of the New York metropolitan area. North of the island is Long Island Sound, across which are the states of Connecticut and Rhode Island. With a census-estimated population of 7,686,912 in 2012, Long Island is the most populated island in any U.S. state or territory, and the 17th most populous island in the world, ahead of Ireland, Jamaica, and Hokkaido. Its population density is 5,402 inhabitants per square mile, 2,086/km2. If it were a U.S. state, Long Island would rank 13th in population, after Virginia, and first in population density. Both the longest and the largest island in the contiguous United States, Long Island extends 118 miles, 190 kilometers, eastward from New York Harbor to Montauk Point, and has a maximum north-to-south expanse of 23 miles, 37 kilometers, between the northern Long Island Sound coast and the southern Atlantic coast. With a land area of 1,401 square miles, 3,629 kilometers (2), Long Island is the 11th largest island in the United States and the 148th largest island in the world, larger than the 1,214 square miles, 3,140 kilometers (2), of the smallest state, Rhode Island. 2 of New York City's major airports, LaGuardia Airport and JFK International Airport, are located on Long Island, in Queens. 9 bridges and 13 tunnels, including railroad tunnels, connect Brooklyn and Queens, and thus Long Island, to the 3 other boroughs of New York City. Ferries connect Suffolk County northward across Long Island Sound to the state of Connecticut.
Overview.
The westernmost end of Long Island contains the New York City boroughs of Brooklyn, Kings County, and Queens, Queens County. The central and eastern portions contain the suburban Nassau and Suffolk counties. However, colloquial usage of the term Long Island usually refers only to Nassau and Suffolk counties. For example, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York's Long Island district is separate from that of New York City. The more dense and urban Brooklyn and Queens are not usually referred to as Long Island, since they are a part of New York City, although before those counties amalgamated into the city, they were often so identified. At least as late as 1911, locations in Queens were still commonly referred to as being on Long Island. Some institutions in the New York City section of the island use the island's names, like Long Island University and Long Island Jewish Medical Center. The New York Islanders National Hockey League team intends to retain its name after their move from Nassau County to Brooklyn in 2015. Nassau County is more developed than Suffolk County, and has pockets of rural affluence within the Gold Coast of the North Shore and the Five Towns area on the South Shore. South Shore communities are built along protected wetlands of the island and contain white sandy beaches of outer barrier islands fronting on the Atlantic Ocean. Dutch and English settlers from the time before the American Revolutionary War, as well as communities of Native Americans, populated the island. The 19th century saw the infusion of the wealthiest Americans in the so-called Gold Coast of the North Shore, where wealthy Americans and Europeans in the Gilded Age built lavish country homes. Today, although many of the massive estates have been demolished, many others remain their original state or have become parks, arboretums, universities and museums. Owing to economic growth and the suburbanization after World War II, Nassau was the fastest-growing county in the United States from the 1950s to the 1970s. Suffolk County remains less congested, despite substantial growth in the high-technology and light manufacturing sectors since 1990, although traffic has been increasing in recent years. In its easternmost sections, Suffolk remains small-town rural, as in Greenport on the North Fork and some of the outward areas of the Hamptons, although summer tourism swells the population in those areas. Western Suffolk, such as the towns of Huntington and Babylon, are becoming increasingly populated and are beginning to resemble towns in Nassau. According to the U.S. Census Bureau's 2008 American Community Survey, Nassau and Suffolk counties have the 10th and 26th highest median household incomes in the nation, respectively. Additionally, Nassau County is the third richest county per capita in New York State and the 30th richest in the nation, and it has the second highest property taxes in the United States. Suffolk County has redeveloped North Fork potato fields into a burgeoning wine region. The South Fork is known for beach communities, including the world-renowned Hamptons, and for Montauk Point Lighthouse at the eastern tip of the island.
Geography. Geology.
Long Island, as part of the Outer Lands region, is formed largely of two spines of glacial moraine, with a large, sandy outwash plain beyond. These moraines consist of gravel and loose rock left behind during the two most recent pulses of Wisconsin glaciation during the Ice Ages some 21,000 years ago, 19,000 BC. The northern moraine, which directly abuts the north shore of Long Island at points, is known as the Harbor Hill Moraine. The more southerly moraine, known as the Ronkonkoma Moraine, forms the backbone of Long Island. It runs primarily through the very center of Long Island, roughly coinciding with the length of the Long Island Expressway. The land to the south of this moraine to the south shore is the outwash plain of the last glacier. One part of the outwash plain was known as the Hempstead Plains, and this land contained one of the few natural prairies to exist east of the Appalachian Mountains. The glaciers melted and receded to the north, resulting in the difference between the North Shore beaches and the South Shore beaches. The North Shore beaches are rocky from the remaining glacial debris, while the South Shores are crisp, clear, outwash sand. Janes Hill, at 401 feet, 122 m, within Suffolk County near its border with Nassau County, is the highest hill along either moraine. Another well-known summit is Bald Hill in Brookhaven Town, not far from its geographical center at Middle Island. The glaciers also formed Lake Ronkonkoma in Suffolk County and Lake Success in Nassau County, each a deep kettle lake.
Climate.
Long Island is a climate similar to that of other coastal areas of the northeastern United States. It has warm, humid summers and cool, wet winters. Under the Köppen climate classification, Long Island lies in a transition zone between a humid subtropical climate, CFA, and a humid continental climate, DFA. The Atlantic Ocean helps bring afternoon sea breezes that temper the heat in the warmer months and limit the frequency and severity of thunderstorms. Long Island is a moderately sunny climate, averaging between 2,400 and 2,800 hours of sunshine annually. Due to its coastal location, Long Island temperatures are somewhat mild compared to the rest of New York State. The coldest month is January, when average temperatures range from 30 to 35 DEGF, 1 to 2 DEGC, and the warmest month is July, when average temperatures range from 70 to 80 DEGF, 21 to 27 DEGC. Temperatures seldom fall below 5 DEGF, 15 DEGC, or rise above 95 DEGF, 35 DEGC. Long Island temperatures vary from west to east, with the western part, Nassau County, Queens, and Brooklyn, generally warmer than the east, Suffolk County. This is due to two factors: the western part is closer to the mainland and more densely developed, causing the urban heat island effect. The eastern part is cooler on most occasions due to a moderation of the Atlantic Ocean and Long Island Sound, and its being less developed. On dry nights with no clouds or wind, the Pine Barrens in eastern Suffolk County can be almost 20 degrees Fahrenheit, 11 degrees Celsius, cooler than the rest of the island due to radiational cooling. Precipitation is distributed fairly uniformly throughout the year, with approximately 3 to 4 inches, 76 to 102 millimeters, on average during each month. Average yearly snowfall totals range from approximately 20 to 35 inches, 51 to 89 centimeters, with the North Shore and western parts averaging more than the South Shore and the East End. In any given winter, however, some parts of the island could see up to 75 inches, 190 centimeters, of snow or more. There are also some very quiet winters, in which most parts of the island could see less than 10 inches, 25 centimeters, of snow. Long Island is somewhat vulnerable to hurricanes. Its northern location and relatively cool waters tend to weaken storms to below hurricane strength by the time they reach Long Island. Nonetheless, some storms have made landfall at Category 1 or greater strength, including two unnamed Category 3 storms, the 1938 New England hurricane, also known as the Long Island Express, and another in 1944. Named hurricanes that crossed Long Island include Hurricane Donna in 1960, Hurricane Camille in 1969, Hurricane Belle in 1976, Hurricane Gloria in 1985. Hurricane Bob in 1991, brushed the eastern tip, and Hurricane Floyd in 1999. There is debate among climatologists as to whether Hurricane Floyd made landfall as a Category 1 or as a very strong almost hurricane-strength tropical storm. The official records note it is the latter. In August 2011, portions of Long Island were evacuated in preparation for Hurricane Irene, a Category 1 hurricane which turned into a tropical storm before it reached Long Island. On October 29, 2012, Hurricane Sandy, a slow-moving superstorm, reached the area causing 90% of Long Island households to lose power and an estimated $18 billion in damages in Nassau and Suffolk counties alone. The extent of Sandy's damages is second only to those caused by the 1938 Long Island Express, even though Sandy's barometric pressure was lower and set a record.
Additional islands.
In addition to the main island, several smaller islands comprise what is collectively considered Long Island. These islands include Fire Island, Plum Island, Robbins Island, Gardiner's Island, Fisher's Island and Shelter Island.
Demographics.
Long Island is one of the most densely populated regions in the United States. As of the United States 2010 census, the total population of all four counties of Long Island was 7,568,304, which is 39% of the population of the state of New York. New York City's portion of the census was 4,735,538, with Brooklyn's population at 2,504,700 and Queens having 2,230,722 residents. Long Island's census-estimated population has subsequently increased 1.6% since 2010, to 7,686,912 in 2012. As of the 2010 census, the combined population of Nassau and Suffolk counties was 2,832,882 people. Suffolk county's share at 1,493,350 and Nassau counties at 1,339,532. Nassau County had a larger population for decades, but Suffolk County surpassed it in the 1990 census as growth and development continued to spread eastward. As Suffolk County has more than twice the land area of Nassau County, the latter still has a much higher population density. Combining all four counties, Long Island's population is greater than 38 of the 50 United States. If it were an independent nation, Long Island would rank as the 96th most populated nation, falling between Switzerland and Israel. Population figures from the U.S. Census Bureau Census 2010 show that whites are the largest racial group in all four counties, and are in the majority in Nassau and Suffolk counties. In 2002, the New York Times cited a study by the nonprofit group Erase Racism, which determined that Nassau and Suffolk counties constitute the most racially segregated suburbs in the United States. According to a 2000 report on religion, which asked congregations to respond, Catholics are the largest religious group on Long Island, with non-affiliated in second place. Catholics make up 52% of the population of Nassau and Suffolk, versus 22% for the country as a whole, with Jews at 16% and 7%, respectively, versus 1.7% nationwide. Only a small percentage of Protestants responded, 7% and 8% respectively, for Nassau and Suffolk counties. This is in contrast with 23% for the entire country on the same survey, and 50% on self-identification surveys. Long Island has a substantial Italian-American population. About 26% of total Long Island residents claim Italian ancestry and 28% of Suffolk County residents claim Italian ancestry. More recently, a Little India community has emerged in Hicksville, Nassau County. Rapidly growing Chinatowns have developed in Brooklyn and Queens, with Asian immigrants moving into Nassau County, as did earlier European immigrants such as the Irish and Italians. Likewise, the Long Island Koreatown, Rhong Koreatown, originated in Flushing, Queens. It is expanding eastward along Northern Boulevard and eventually into Nassau County. A 2010 article in the New York Times stated that the expansion of the immigrant workforce on Long Island has not displaced any jobs from other Long Island residents. Half the immigrants on Long Island hold white-collar positions.
History.
At the time of European contact, the Lenape people, named the Delaware by Europeans, inhabited the western end of Long Island, and spoke the Muncie dialect of Lenape, one of the Algonquian language family. Giovanni da Verrazzano was the first European to record an encounter with these people, after entering what is now New York Bay in 1524. The eastern portion of the island was inhabited by speakers of the Muogon Montauk Narragansett language group of Algonquian languages. They were part of the Pequot and Narragansett peoples inhabiting what is now Connecticut and Rhode Island. In 1609, the English navigator Henry Hudson explored the harbor and may have landed at Coney Island. The western portion of Long Island was later settled by the Dutch, while the eastern region was settled by English Puritans from New Haven, Connecticut, settling in Southold on October 21, 1640. Indian land deeds recorded by the Dutch from 1636 state that the Indians referred to Long Island as Swamaka, Sewanhaki and Sewanhaking were other spellings in the transliteration of Lenape. Sewan was one of the terms for wampum, commemorative stringed shell beads, for a while also used as currency by colonists and trades with the Lenape, and is also translated as loose, or scattered, which may refer either to the wampum or to Long Island. The name T. Lang Eland alias Matworgs, later shortened to Lang Eland, appears in Dutch maps from the 1650s. Later, the English referred to the land as Nassau Island, after the Dutch Prince William of Nassau, Prince of Orange, who later also ruled as King William III of England. It is unclear when the name Nassau Island was discontinued. Until 1664, the jurisdiction of Long Island was split, roughly at the present border between Nassau County and Suffolk County, between the Dutch in the west and English colonists in Connecticut claiming the east. The Dutch had granted an English settlement in Hempstead, New York, now in Nassau County, in 1644 but, after a boundary dispute, drive out English settlers from the Oyster Bay area. In 1664, the English took over the Dutch colony of New Amsterdam, including all their lands on Long Island, and controlled the 120-mile expanse, except for all the territories inhabited by indigenous peoples. The 1664 land patent granted to the Duke of York included all islands in Long Island Sound. The Duke of York held a grudge against Connecticut, as New Haven had hidden 3 of the judges who sentenced the Duke's father, King Charles I, to death in 1649. Settlers throughout Suffolk County pressed to stay part of Connecticut, but Governor Sir Edmund Andros threatened to eliminate the settlers' rights to land if they did not yield, which they did by 1676. All of Long Island, as well as the islands between it and Connecticut, became part of the province of New York within the Shire of York. Present-day Suffolk County was designated as the East Riding of Yorkshire, present-day Brooklyn was part of the West Riding, and present-day Queens and Nassau were part of the larger North Riding. In 1683, Yorkshire was dissolved and the 3 original counties on Long Island were established, Kings, Queens, and Suffolk. Early in the American Revolutionary War, The island was captured by the British from General George Washington in the Battle of Long Island, the largest battle of the entire war. After the British victory on Long Island, many patriots fled, leaving mostly loyalists behind. The island remained a British stronghold until the end of the war. General Washington based his espionage activities here, due to the western part of the island's proximity to the British military headquarters in New York City. In the 19th century, Long Island was still mainly rural and devoted to agriculture. The predecessor to the Long Island Railroad, LIRR, began service in 1836 from the South Ferry, Brooklyn, through Brooklyn to Jamaica and Queens. The line was completed to the east end of Long Island in 1844, as part of a plan for transportation to Boston. Competing railroads, soon absorbed by the LIRR, were built along the South Shore to accommodate travelers from those more populated areas. For the century from 1830 until 1930, total population roughly doubled every 20 years, with more dense development in areas near Manhattan. Several cities were incorporated, such as the city of Brooklyn in Kings County, and Long Island City in Queens. Until the 1883 completion of the Brooklyn Bridge, the only connection between Long Island and the rest of the United States was by boat and ship. As other bridges and tunnels were constructed, areas of the island began to be developed as residential suburbs, first around the railroads that offered commuting into the city. On January 1, 1898, Kings County and portions of Queens were consolidated into the city of Greater New York, abolishing all cities and towns within them. The easternmost 280 square miles, 730 kilometers of Queens County, which were not part of the consolidation plan, separated from Queens in 1899 to form Nassau County. At the close of the 19th century, wealthy industrialists who made vast fortunes during the Gilded Age began to construct large baronial country estates in Nassau County communities along the north shore of Long Island, favoring the many lots with water views. Proximity to Manhattan attracted such men as J.P. Morgan, William K. Vanderbilt, and Charles Pratt, whose estates led to this area being nicknamed the Gold Coast. This period in the area was immortalized in fiction, such as F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby, which has also been adapted in films. Charles Lindbergh lifted off from Roosevelt Field with his Spirit of St. Louis for his historic solo flight to Europe. From the 1920s to the 1940s, Long Island began the transformation from backwoods and farms as developers created numerous suburbs. Numerous branches of the LIRR already enabled commuting from the suburbs to the city. Robert Moses engineered various automobile parkway projects to span the island, and developed beaches and state parks for the enjoyment of residents and visitors from the city. Gradually, development also followed these parkways, with various communities springing up along the more traveled routes. After World War II, suburban development increased with incentives under the GI Bill, and Long Island's population skyrocketed, mostly in Nassau County and western Suffolk County. Second and third generation children of immigrants moved out to Long Island to settle in new housing developments built during the post-war boom. Levittown became noted as a suburb, where house construction was simplified to be produced on a large scale. These provided opportunities for GIs returning home to buy houses and start a family. The descendants of late 19th and early 20th century immigrants from southern and eastern Europe, and black migrants from the south, have been followed by more recent ones from Latin America. These have created a diversity on Long Island lacked in other American regions. The population has many ethnic Irish, Jews and Italians, as well as an increasing number of Asians and Hispanics reflecting later migrations. In 1985, the United States Supreme Court ruled in United States v. Maine that Long Island was not an island for legal purposes.
Economy.
The counties of Nassau and Suffolk have been long renowned for their affluence. From about 1930 to about 1990, Long Island was considered one of the aviation centers of the United States, with companies such as Grumman Aircraft, Republic, Fairchild, and Curtiss having their headquarters and factories on Long Island. Long Island has played a prominent role in scientific research and in engineering. It is the home of the Brookhaven National Laboratory in Nuclear Physics and Department of Energy Research. In recent decades, companies such as Sperry Rand, Computer Associates, headquartered in Islandia, Motorola Enterprise Mobility, now occupying the former headquarters of Symbol Technologies and a former Grumman plant in Holtzville, have made Long Island a center for the computer industry. Stony Brook University of the State University of New York conducts far-ranging medical and technology research. Long Island is also home to the Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, which was directed for 35 years by James D. Watson, who, along with Francis Crick, discovered the double helix structure of DNA. Long Island is home to the East Coast's largest industrial park, the Hauppauge Industrial Park. The park has over 1,300 companies employing more than 71,000 Long Islanders. Companies in the park and abroad are represented by the Hauppauge Industrial Association. As many as 20% of Long Islanders commute to New York City jobs. The eastern end of the island is still partly agricultural. In the last 25 years, development of vineyards on the North Fork became a major new industry, replacing potato fields. Pumpkin farms have been added to traditional truck farming. Farms allow fresh fruit picking by Long Islanders for much of the year. Fishing continues to be an important industry, especially at Huntington, Northport, Montauk, and other coastal communities of the East End and South Shore.
Government and politics.
Nassau County and Suffolk County each have their own governments, with a county executive leading each. Each has a county legislature and county-wide elected officials, such as district attorney, county clerk, and county comptroller. The towns in both counties have their own governments as well, with town supervisors and a town council. Nassau County is divided into 3 towns and 2 small incorporated cities, Glen Cove and Long Beach. Suffolk County is divided into 10 towns. Brooklyn and Queens, on the other hand, do not have county governments. As boroughs of New York City, both have borough presidents, which have been largely ceremonial offices since the shutdown of the New York City Board of Estimate. Long Island is home to 2 Native American Indian reservations, Poospatuck Reservation, and Shinnecock Reservation. Both reservations are in Suffolk County. Numerous island place names are Native American in origin.
Law enforcement.
Queens and Brooklyn are patrolled by the New York City Police Department. Nassau and Suffolk counties respectively have the Nassau County Police Department and Suffolk County Police Department. New York State Police patrols state parks and parkways. Several dozen villages in the 2 cities in Nassau have their own police departments. Both Nassau and Suffolk have a sheriff's office that handles civil process, evictions, warrant service and enforcement, prisoner transport and detention, and operation of the county jail.
Secession proposals.
The secession of Long Island from New York was proposed as early as 1896, but talk was revived towards the latter part of the 20th century. On March 28, 2008, Suffolk County, New York Comptroller Joseph Sawicki proposed a plan that would make Long Island, specifically, Nassau and Suffolk counties, the 51st state of the United States of America. Sawicki says that all the Long Island taxpayers' money would stay on Long Island, rather than the funds being dispersed all over the entire state of New York. The state of Long Island would include over 2.7 million people. So far, Nassau County executives have not expressed interest in joining in the secession proposal, which would need to be approved by the NY state legislature.
Transportation.
Every major form of transportation serves Long Island, including John F. Kennedy International Airport, LaGuardia Airport, and Long Island MacArthur Airport, multiple smaller airports, railroads, subways, and several major highways. There are historic and modern bridges, recreational and commuter trails, and ferries serving various parts of all of Long Island. The Long Island Expressway, Northern State Parkway, and Southern State Parkway, all products of the automobile-centered planning of Robert Moses, make east-west travel on the island straightforward, if not always quick. There are currently 10 road crossings out of Long Island, all within New York City limits at the extreme western end of the island. Plans for a Long Island crossing at various locations in Nassau and Suffolk counties, a proposed bridge or tunnel that would link Long Island to the south with New York or Connecticut to the north across Long Island Sound, have been discussed for decades, but there are currently no firm plans to construct such a crossing. The MTA implements mass transportation for the New York metropolitan area, including all 5 boroughs of New York City, the suburban counties of Dutchess, Nassau, Orange, Putnam, Rockland, Suffolk and Westchester, all of which together are the Metropolitan Commuter Transportation District, MCTD. The MTA is the largest public transportation provider in the Western Hemisphere. Its agencies serve 14.6 million people spread over 5,000 square miles, 13,000 kilometers from New York City through southeastern New York State, including Long Island and the lower Hudson Valley, and Connecticut. Combined, the MTA agencies now move more than 2.6 billion rail and bus customers a year while employing some 70,000 workers. Nassau Inter-County Express provides bus service in Nassau County, while Suffolk County Transit, an agency of the Suffolk County government, provides bus service in Suffolk County. In 2012, NICE Bus Company replaced the former Long Island Bus in transporting Long Islanders across Nassau County while still allowing them to use the MTA Metro cards as payment.
Rail.
The Long Island Railroad, LIRR, is the busiest commuter railroad system in North America, carrying an average of 282,400 passengers each weekday on 728 daily trains. Chartered on April 24, 1834, it is also the oldest railroad still operating under its original name.
Education. Primary and secondary education.
Long Island's Nassau and Suffolk counties are the home of 125 public school districts containing a total of 656 public schools. In contrast, all of Brooklyn and Queens are served by the New York City Department of Education, the largest school district in the United States. Long Island is also home to a number of private and parochial schools.
Colleges and universities.
Public institutions of the State University of New York. Stony Brook University, including the main Stony Brook campus and the Stony Brook Southampton campus, SUNY College at Old Westbury, Farmingdale State College, Farmingdale, Nassau Community College, East Garden City, Suffolk County Community College, 3 main campuses, in Selden, Brentwood, and Riverhead, and 2 satellite centers in Saville and downtown Riverhead. Stony Brook University, including the main Stony Brook campus and the Stony Brook Southampton campus, SUNY College at Old Westbury, Farmingdale State College, Farmingdale, Nassau Community College, East Garden City, Suffolk County Community College, 3 main campuses, in Selden, Brentwood, and Riverhead, and 2 satellite centers in Saville and downtown Riverhead, Federal Service Academies. United States Merchant Marine Academy, Kings Point, United States Merchant Marine Academy, Kings Point. Private. Adelphi University in Nassau County, main campus in Garden City, and Suffolk County, an education and conference center in Hauppauge, Brarcliffe College, in Queens at Long Island City. Nassau at Bethpage. And Suffolk at Patchogue, Dowling College, 3 campuses in Suffolk County, Oakdale, Shirley, and Melville, 5 Towns College in Suffolk County, Dix Hills, Hofstra University in Nassau County, Hempstead and Uniondale, Long Island University, C.W. Post Campus in Brockville in Nassau County, and 2 branch campuses in Suffolk County at Brentwood and Riverhead, and Brooklyn, Molloy College, in Nassau County, Rockville Center, New York Institute of Technology, main campus in Nassau, Old Westbury, campus also in Suffolk, Central Islip, and Manhattan, Polytechnic Institute of New York University, formerly Polytechnic University, now part of NYU, has a Long Island Graduate Center in Suffolk, at Melville, as well as the main campus in Brooklyn, St. John's University, main campus in Queens, with a graduate center in Suffolk, Oakdale, St. Joseph's College, campuses in Brooklyn and Suffolk, Patchogue, SBI Melville, Sanford Brown Institute campus in Suffolk County at Melville, Touro Law Center in Suffolk County, Central Islip, Watson School of Biological Sciences in Nassau County, Laurel Hollow, Webb Institute in Nassau County, Glen Cove, institutions of the City University of New York. Brooklyn College, Medgar Evers College, New York City College of Technology, Kingsborough Community College, Queens College, York College, City University of New York School of Law, LaGuardia Community College, Queensborough Community College, Brooklyn College, Medgar Evers College, New York City College of Technology, Kingsborough Community College, Queens College, York College, City University of New York School of Law, LaGuardia Community College, Queensborough Community College, institutions of the State University of New York. SUNY Downstate Medical Center, Brooklyn, SUNY Downstate Medical Center, Brooklyn. For other colleges in Brooklyn and Queens, see List of colleges and universities in New York City.
Media.
Many Long Island organizations and companies have adopted the LTLD as a domain hack.
Leisure and recreation. Food.
Both Nassau and Suffolk County are home to thousands of restaurants. As New York is known as a melting pot, every kind of restaurant from Mexican to Hungarian to Indian can be found. These specialty restaurants are often family-owned. Small family-owned pizzerias are ubiquitous. It is not uncommon for a community on Long Island to have several different pizzerias, each with its own distinct flavor. The Long Island Pizza Festival and Bake Off is an annual competition in which mom-and-pop pizzerias compete to be named best on Long Island. Pizzerias are so abundant on the island that they support multiple large pizza and Italian food distribution companies based on Long Island, such as Cremasa Food Company, Benintendi Foods, and DiCarlo Foods amongst others. Bagel stores and delis are common. Often more than one deli can be found in a community. Diners also abound on Long Island. Many are Greek and German owned, and many are open all night for late-night patrons. Almost all major fast food and casual dining chains have a presence on Long Island.
Drink.
The well-known cocktail, the Long Island iced tea, was first created on Long Island. One of the most celebrated local beers is called Blue Point, named for the hamlet of the same name.
Roadside attractions.
The Big Duck is a ferocement building in the shape of a duck located in Flanders, New York, on Long Island. It was originally built in 1931 by duck farmer Martin Morrow in nearby Riverhead, and used as a shop to sell ducks and duck eggs. It was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1997.
Sports.
The New York Mets baseball team plays at Citi Field in Flushing Meadows Corona Park, Queens. Their former stadium, Shea Stadium, was also home for the New York Jets football team from 1964 until 1983. The new stadium is designed with an exterior facade and main entry rotunda inspired by Ebbets Field. The New York Mets had planned to move their Double-A farm team to Long Island, as part of the ambitious but now defunct plan for Nassau County called the Lighthouse Project. The Brooklyn Cyclones are a minor league baseball team, affiliated with the New York Mets. The Cyclones play at Keyspan Park just off the boardwalk on Coney Island in Brooklyn. The Barclays Center, a new sports arena, business, and residential complex built partly on a platform over the Atlantic Yards at Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn, is the current home of the Brooklyn Nets basketball team. The move from New Jersey in the summer of 2012 marked the return to Long Island for the franchise, which played at Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum from 1972 to 1977. Nassau County is home to the New York Islanders of the National Hockey League. The Islanders have played at Nassau Coliseum in Uniondale since their inception in 1972. The Islanders will move to Barclays Center in Brooklyn in 2015, ensuring that the team will remain on Long Island. Long Island is a professional soccer club, the New York Cosmos, who play in the Division II North American Soccer League at James M. Schwartz Stadium in Hempstead. Queens also hosts one of the 4 tennis Grand Slams, the U.S. Open. Every August, September, in Olympic years, the best tennis players in the world travel to Long Island to play the championships, which is held in the USTA National Tennis Center, located adjacent to Citi Field in Flushing Meadows Park. The complex also contains the biggest tennis stadium in the world, the Arthur Ashe Stadium. Ebbets Field, which stood in Brooklyn from 1913 to 1957, was the home of the Brooklyn Dodgers baseball team, who decamped to California after the 1957 season to become the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers won several National League pennants in the 1940s and 1950s, losing several times in the World Series, often called Subway Series, to their Bronx rivals, the New York Yankees. The Dodgers won their lone championship in Brooklyn in the 1955 World Series versus the Yankees. Long Island has been a hotspot for outdoor lacrosse at the youth and college level, which made way for a Major League Lacrosse team in 2001, the Long Island Lizards. The Lizards play at Mitchell Athletic Complex in Uniondale. The New York Dragons of the Arena Football League also played their home games at Nassau Coliseum. Long Island has also been at the forefront of semi-professional football. The Empire State Demon Knights of the Five-Star Football League have called Long Island their home since they relinquished the name Kings County Wolfpack and moved to Suffolk County. Long Island is also home to the Long Island Ducks minor league baseball team of the Atlantic League. Their stadium, Bethpage Ballpark, is located in central Islip. The 2 main rugby teams are the Long Island RFC in East Meadow and the Suffolk Bull Moose in Stony Brook. Another category of sporting events popular in this region are thematic racing events, involving many local volunteer fire departments. Long Island also has 2 horse racing tracks, Aqueduct Racetrack in Ozone Park, Queens, and Belmont Park on the Queens-Nassau border in Elmont, home of the Belmont Stakes. The longest dirt thoroughbred race course in the world is located in the Nassau County community of Elmont at Belmont Park. Long Island is home to numerous famous athletes, including Hall of Famers Jim Brown, Julius Erving, John Mackey, Nick Drous, and Carl Yastrzemski. Others include gold medalists Sue Bird, Sarah Hughes and Derek Atkins, Brickashaw Ferguson, Billy Donovan, Larry Brown, Rick Pitino, John McEnroe, Jumbo Elliott, Mick Foley, Zack Ryder, Matt Serra, Boomer Esiason, Vinny Testaverde, Craig Biggio, Frank Catalanotto, Greg Sachs, Rob Burnett, Steve Park, Frank Weiler, Chris Weidman, Mark Colston and Speedy Claxton. Several current NHL players such as Vancouver Canucks Christopher Higgins and Matt Gilroy, Nashville Predators Eric Nystrom, Toronto Maple Leaf Mike Kimisirk, and Pittsburgh Penguin Rob Scuteri were all born and or raised on Long Island. Both Kimisirk and Higgins played on the same Suffolk County Hockey League team at an early age, and later played on the Montreal Canadiens together. Nick Drous was an All-Scholastic and All-Long Island honoree at Lawrence High School, Nassau Company in 1936 and 1937, and a 2-time unanimous National College All-American in the years of 1939 and 1940 at Cornell University.
Music.
Music on Long Island, Nassau and Suffolk, is strongly influenced by the proximity to New York City and by the youth culture of the suburbs. Psychedelic rock was widely popular in the 1960s as flocks of disaffected youth traveled to NYC to participate in protest and the culture of the time. R&B also has a history on Long Island, especially in areas close to New York City. In the late 1970s through the 1980s, the influence of radio station WLIR made Long Island one of the first places in the U.S. to hear and embrace European new wave bands such as Depeche Mode, the Pet Shop Boys, and Culture Club. In the 1990s, Hip-hop became very popular with rap pioneers Rakim and Public Enemy growing up on Long Island. Recently, new bands have been making a name for themselves originating from Long Island such as Brand New, Austin Schäufel and Envy on the coast. Famous rock bands that originated on Long Island include Dream Theater, Blue Oyster Cult, Twisted Sister and guitar virtuosos John Petrocchi, Steve V and Joe Satriani. The Nassau Coliseum and Nikon at Jones Beach Theatre are venues used by national touring acts as performance spaces for concerts. Nikon at Jones Beach Theatre is an outdoor amphitheatre, located at Jones Beach State Park. It is a popular place to view summer concerts, with new as well as classic artists performing there during the summer months. It hosts a large 4th of July fireworks show every year which fills the stands. People also park cars along the highway leading to the show, and others watch from the nearby beaches. Long Island is also known for its school music programs. Many schools in Suffolk County have distinguished music programs, with high numbers of students who were accepted into the statewide all-state music groups, or even the national All-Eastern Coast music groups. Both the Suffolk County and Nassau County Music Educators Associations are recognized by the National Association of Music Education, MENC, and host numerous events, competitions, and other music-related activities.
Long Island Gallery.
On the Atlantic Ocean. Dutch and English settlers from the time before the American Revolutionary War, as well as communities of Native Americans, populated the island. The 19th century saw the infusion of the wealthiest Americans in the so-called Gold Coast of the North Shore, where wealthy Americans and Europeans in the Gilded Age built lavish country homes. Today, although many of the massive estates have been demolished, many others remain their original state or have become parks, arboretums, universities and museums. Owing to economic growth and the suburbanization after World War II, Nassau was the fastest-growing county in the United States from the 1950s to the 1970s. Suffolk County remains less congested, despite substantial growth in the high technology and light manufacturing sectors since 1990, although traffic has been increasing in recent years. In its easternmost sections, Suffolk remains small-town rural, as in Greenport on the North Fork and some of the outward areas of the Hamptons, although summer tourism swells the population in those areas. Western Suffolk, such as the towns of Huntington and Babylon, are becoming increasingly populated and are beginning to resemble towns in the contiguous United States. Long Island extends 118 miles, 190 kilometers, eastward from New York Harbor to Montauk Point, and has a maximum north-to-south expanse of 23 miles, 37 kilometers, between the northern Long Island Sound coast and the southern Atlantic coast. With a land area of 1,401 square miles, 3,629 kilometers (2), Long Island is the 11th largest island in the United States and the 148th largest island in the world, larger than the 1,214 square miles, 3,140 kilometers (2), of the smallest state, Rhode Island. Two of New York City's major airports, LaGuardia Airport and JFK International Airport, are located on Long Island, in Queens. 9 bridges and 13 tunnels, including railroad tunnels, connect Brooklyn and Queens, and thus Long Island, to the 3 other boroughs of New York City. Ferries connect Suffolk County northward across Long Island Sound to the state of Connecticut.
Overview.
The westernmost end of Long Island contains the New York City boroughs of Brooklyn, Kings County, and Queens, Queens County. The central and eastern portions contain the suburban Nassau and Suffolk counties. However, colloquial usage of the term Long Island usually refers only to Nassau and Suffolk counties. For example, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York's Long Island district is separate from that of New York City. The more dense and urban Brooklyn and Queens are not usually referred to as Long Island, since they are a part of New York City, although before those counties amalgamated into the city, they were often so identified. At least as late as 1911, locations in Queens were still commonly referred to as being on Long Island. Some institutions in the New York City section of the island use the island's names, like Long Island University and Long Island Jewish Medical Center. The New York Islanders National Hockey League team intends to retain its name after their move from Nassau County to Brooklyn in 2015. Nassau County is more developed than Suffolk County, and has pockets of rural affluence within the Gold Coast of the North Shore and the Five Towns area on the South Shore. South Shore communities are built along protected wetlands of the island and contain white sandy beaches of Outer Barrier Island's front.
Long Island.
Long Island is an island in the U.S. state of New York. Stretching northeastwards from New York Harbor into the Atlantic Ocean, Long Island contains 4 counties, 2 of which are boroughs of New York City, and 2 of which are mainly suburban. In popular usage, Long Island often refers only to Nassau and Suffolk counties in order to differentiate them from New York City, although all 4 counties are situated on the island and are part of the New York metropolitan area. North of the island is Long Island Sound, across which are the states of Connecticut and Rhode Island. With a census estimated population of 7,686,912 in 2012, Long Island is the most populated island in any U.S. state or territory, and the 17th most populous island in the world, ahead of Ireland, Jamaica, and Hokkaido. Its population density is 5,402 inhabitants per square mile, 2,086/km2. If it were a U.S. state, Long Island would rank 13th in population, after Virginia, and first in population density. Both the longest and the largest island in the Nassau. According to the U.S. Census Bureau's 2008 American Community Survey, Nassau and Suffolk counties have the 10th and 26th highest median household incomes in the nation, respectively. Additionally, Nassau County is the 3rd richest county per capita in New York State and the 30th richest in the nation, and it has the 2nd highest property taxes in the United States. Suffolk County has redeveloped North Fork potato fields into a burgeoning wine region. The South Fork is known for beach communities, including the world-renowned Hamptons, and for Montauk Point Lighthouse at the eastern tip of the island.
Geography. Geology.
Long Island, as part of the Outer Lands region, is formed largely of 2 spines of glacial moraine, with a large, sandy outwash plain beyond. These moraines consist of gravel and loose rock left behind during the 2 most recent pulses of Wisconsin glaciation during the Ice Ages some 21,000 years ago, 19,000 BC. The northern moraine, which directly abuts the north shore of Long Island at points, is known as the Harbor Hill Moraine. The more